All right, guys, welcome to the Get Bit podcast for blurs, for nerds. If you have a fandom, you are most certainly welcome here. I'm hosting the most Black Spartan, a little bit solo tonight, but that's all right. Hopefully, you guys are having a wonderful weekend, off the work week, or for some of us, and if not, well, may your work weekend be quick. A couple news to get into tonight, but I guess I might as well go into the one where everybody's talking about because if you're not an Invincible fan, you probably know what I'm about to show, but again, I have to say this out loud because I usually say viewer discretion is advised at the beginning of this, but it's Mortal Kombat at this point. But yes, viewer discretion is advised.
You have destroyed worlds. I have erased whole timelines.
Finally, a worthy challenge. Claim this timeline for the Viltrum Empire. You will burn for this invasion.
Yep, it's that brutal. That was basically the Omni-Man trailer for Mortal Kombat 1. As you can see, he's coming this November, especially on if you purchase the Premium Edition of Combat Pack for early access to him. Guys, let me be completely honest. I love it all. If you've seen Invincible, you know a couple of the scenes, unfortunately, getting, punched where he's saying, think, Mark, think, or the infamous subway scene. If you haven't seen Invincible, you're probably not going to know what those two things are. Again, if you're an adult, because Invincible is definitely not for kids, you can definitely check that out on Amazon Prime. Again, Invincible is not for kids. I know at this point we shouldn't have to stress it, but I feel like we have to. Mortal Kombat 1, from what I've been told, has been great. I'm still waiting to play it because your boy still got to get a PS5, but that's all right. But it is, from what I've been told, it is smooth. It is fun. If Homelander, because I'm wondering about Homelander, yes, because we know Omni-Man, Homelander, Peacemaker, Quan Chi, of course, Shang Tsung. But let's be honest, we're more interested in how they're going to play, especially Peacemaker, because I was wondering how Peacemaker is going to play, how Homelander is going to play, and how Omni-Man is going to play, considering the fact that Ed Boon is just having the time of his life right now, bringing in DLC characters into Mortal Kombat 1. But again, I love the trailer. I just hope they keep the essence of Omni-Man, although I keep hoping there's going to be more little surprises. But let's be honest, everybody's going to be doing this subway finisher because that's just, disrespectful, I guess. But speaking of Invincible, we do have a trailer for season 2.
We all remember that day. For some, the pain will never fade.
When I was a kid, I always wanted to be my dad. What if that happens? What if I become him and I don't even know it? I need to do more. I can save lives. Put me back out there.
Mark isn't like other Viltrumites. He's a good guy.
Dinner tonight?
Go save the world, Invincible.
You're way too good for me! Who are you?
I call me the Shapesmith.
There's an infinite number of dimensions, and I was born with the ability to access all of them.
Shut it down, or I take it down.
Make us.
You have no idea how much I wanted you to say that.
It's bottled in, I'ma let it out. Man, I've been through wars, still can't knock me.
Your powers don't make you a hero. They make you dangerous.
Made it through the storms. You can't knock me down.
Make him pay for what he did to your world.
The last 20 years of my life have been a lie.
You want this back? Come and get it.
Wrong choice, asshole.
I need revenge.
So arrogant, just like your father.
People of Earth, the more you resist, the worse this gets. And if you think you can stop us, don't forget, I'm...
If this is how the next season is going to go, I'm digging it. Of course, guys, that was the trailer for Invincible Season 2 on Amazon Prime Video. As you see, starts November 3rd. I was really curious how they're going to go with this. I actually started going back and read the graphic novel, so I'm kind of a little bit ahead, but still, I am enjoying this because we know Omni-Man is gone. We know that. So it's going to be a whole lot of things that are going to be coming out, especially with the Vermeer Empire race coming out. Mark having a little bit of issues. I'm looking forward to it. That's about the best way I can say it. But again, I have to stress this very heavily. Invincible is not for kids. I cannot stress this enough. Understand, I know superhero movies are a big thing right now. I really, truly know this. But I'm saying this from the bottom of my heart. If your child is not at least 13 years old, do not let them watch Invincible unless you want to do a whole lot of explaining in a parent-teacher conference. That's up to you. As far as the rest of us, looking forward to November 3rd. But yeah, just again, I cannot stress this enough. Invincible, not for kids. But speaking of things that are for kids, a little bit of wrestling news. Why? Because, well, even though the writer strike is over, the actor strike is still going on, and we are standing in solidarity with those unions. So we try not to talk about new works. So we do talk about the other things that fascinate us. For me, it's wrestling. And again, guys, I never thought I'd see the day. Number one, that one of my favorite wrestlers, probably on the Mount Rushmore of wrestlers, if you will, did announce his retirement, which Sting did on AEW just this past Wednesday.
You know, I can remember about 30 some years ago, the first time I ever did that to the crowd and they wooed back. I couldn't believe it. All these years later, here I am. Well, shall I say the word? All right, before I say the word, I want to reflect a little bit with all of you. Is that okay? We just reflect? Because that word makes me want to reflect a little bit. It makes me think about all the years traveling up and down the road with guys like the Total Package, Lex Luger, Rick and Scotty Steiner, Buff Bagwell. There's some names from the past. Yeah, but I travel up and down with these guys all the time, and you know, we'd look at the generation ahead of us, the guys that shaped my career, guys like Dusty Rhodes. Dusty Rhodes being the most charismatic human being I've ever seen in my whole life. Unreal, Dusty. Love you. Hulk Hogan. Okay, I hear you. But Hulk Hogan transcended wrestling, and I did learn something from the guy. So I got to give something to him on that. But one of the guys I really want to give a lot to is the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. Thank you, Rick. Thank you for all the moments. I remember the Clash of Champions 1988, the very first world title match that I had with you, and you put me on the map. What a moment that was. And then in 1990, the Great American Bash, Baltimore, Maryland, world title match. This time, I come out the victor, Rick. Thank you once again, Nature Boy.
Now, of course, that did cut short just because really Sting did announce his retirement next year at the AEW Revolution pay-per-view. Again, this is a guy who, number one, to me, was in the golden age of wrestling and seemed to reinvent himself. And almost every Yeah, almost every known wrestling promotion. I think about it because it was WWE, WCW, TNA / Impact, New Japan Wrestling, and AEW. So the man has definitely been around. Is an icon, well respected, well loved. The only other person besides him that I can think of would possibly be The Undertaker, as much respect this man has been given. But truly put, guys, it is cool to actually see him really get his reunion, his farewell tour, because a lot of stars are doing that. And for me, the big thing was just watching him, because again, the thing about wrestling, guys, that a lot of people don't get, because wrestling, it's a grown man soap opera. Yes, it is. It is a grown man soap opera with chairs and tables and death matches and gimmicks and stipulations and just ad-libbing, Mike improv at its finest. This is the reason why I keep on saying wrestlers are the greatest entertainers in the world. And very few have been able to do what Sting has done. I mean, you got your talkers and your wrestlers, and then you got your one of a kind. Sting is definitely that. So again, get to see his farewell tour of all sorts. As he says, he will be retiring at AEW Revolution next year. Much well deserved, but that generation, man, when it comes to wrestling, it just sticks with you. It really does. Aside from that, because I'm not sure about this news, I really am not. But because we got to talk about, we're going to talk about it because really quickly, I don't get the whole thing with CM Punk. I don't. Don't get me wrong. CM Punk in his heyday, when he was with WWE, his run there, the infamous pipe bombs promo. His runs in WWE, all great, but now in AEW, his whole run in AEW, I just didn't get it. I even said it on my blurredsedeyeview.org column for wrestling, where AEW had introduced Saturday Night Collision, and I kept on saying the entire time, I felt like it was Punk's show. He literally was in the main event of every episode. He tried to introduce the Real World Championship, just an AEW title that he says he never lost with the spray paint X over it. He kept getting put with other teams like FTR and then getting put in 6 and 8-man tag matches. And again, it just reminded me, well, I'm going to tell you guys something. It reminded me so much of Triple H's promo on CM Punk, when the whole thing was, I'm trying to remember this correctly, because Triple H said something about CM Punk in his promo that it just rings freaking true. And I cannot stress that enough, that it rings so true that he said about CM Punk, where he sat there and said, you're supposed to be the voice of the voiceless. You're supposed to be the change that wrestling needed. You were supposed to be all of these things, and you really only did it for yourself. And and again, wrestling imitates life. They were doing, it was a skit, yes, it was. However, it just makes you think. Keep in mind, if we go back to AEW when they were at All Out, when AEW All Out was in London at Wembley Stadium, there was a backstage incident. That backstage incident between Jungle Boy, at the time Rick Perry, and CM Punk, which seemed to spill out in the gorilla position where AEW owner Tony Khan was there. And again, I guess something happened to where Tony Khan felt a little, annoyed with CM Punk. Almost to the point to where he said, well, we need to really consider things. So what did he do? He turned around. Rick Perry has been indefinitely suspended, but we know he's going to be coming back. But CM Punk was always a question mark. And then out of nowhere, Tony Khan decides, and I'll give Tony Khan credit for this. Tony Khan decides that CM Punk needs to be immediately fired from AEW. He even takes it one step more. He goes to Chicago, of all places. Keep in mind, this is a guy who decided in Chicago, CM Punk's pretty much proving ground, went into a AEW from an AEW crowd and explained why he fired CM Punk. No other wrestling promoter or owner has ever done that. Vince McMahon to this day will not step in Canada and explain the Montreal Screwjob. He will never explain it. But then again, he's too busy trying to stay off the radar because TKO now sees him as a bad investment. But I digress. The point I'm getting at here is that CM Punk now being fired from AEW, and you would think for a guy who's had not once, not twice, but 3 times an opportunity to really be that change that he so wants to be, now fired. But here's the crazy part of all this, and this is what I'm getting in. This is what I'm actually getting into, guys. That Impact Wrestling makes an offer to CM Punk. Impact Wrestling. Now, do not get me wrong about Impact Wrestling, because I know on Get Bit we don't really say a lot about Impact Wrestling. I'm not saying it's not a bad promotion. Impact Wrestling, I used to joke about this. And again, this is not an insult to those who watch Impact Wrestling. But I used to say this a long time ago. Impact Wrestling was the Cricket Wireless of wrestling. You knew it was around. It somehow stayed consistent, and it never went away. Never went away. So I'm not saying Impact Wrestling is bad, considering the fact there are a lot of great people on there. Naomi, now known as Trinity on Impact Wrestling, is the new Knockouts champion. Love her run there. And there's a lot of other wrestlers there that were former WWE and WCW wrestlers, and they're doing great things at Impact Wrestling. Is the promotion still needing a lot of changes? Yes. Do I think CM Punk is one of them? No. But of course, this has been reported that Impact Wrestling would welcome CM Punk to the company if he had interest. That Impact had reached out to him and threw the offer out there. So I don't get it. I mean, if Impact Wrestling wants to really up their game, because keep in mind, this is coming from a company. When I say about Impact Wrestling, this is coming from a company that used to be owned by Dixie Carter, who's, made some questionable acquisitions in years. Like, for example, she paid Hulk Hogan a buttload of money. And Hulk Hogan literally took over creative. He tried to put Impact Wrestling on Monday nights going head-to-head with WWE. A move that never really should have been done. He also put over his daughter at the time in an angle with Bubba Ray, now known as Bully Ray. And let's just say, after a while, the Hulk Hogan experiment didn't work. Now, why am I bringing this up? Because now Impact's about to pull another Hulk Hogan. You're going to bring CM Punk, and keep in mind what I said about CM Punk. And again, I'm not trying to knock it, but CM Punk is to me not the draw he used to be. He's not. And I can argue that. I will argue that with anyone, that CM Punk is not he's simply not the draw he used to be. Because he comes out and does the same shtick. He comes out, says, "Oh, everybody's against me. Everybody thinks that I'm out for this. Everybody thinks I'm out for this. Stop me when I start telling lies." And it doesn't hit anymore. It's the same reason why John Cena is not trying to, be the top guy when he's the guy that's on the undercard getting other wrestlers over. Eventually, at some point in a wrestler's life, you have to realize that you can no longer be the top guy. You can no longer be the top draw. You can no longer attract top billing. CM Punk doesn't believe that. And again, I don't see the appeal of him going to the Impact Zone and doing what exactly? Because that's the thing I keep pointing out. What is he going to do differently to raise Impact standards? Because Impact, to me, if you're looking at wrestling, because this is my list. Arguably, my list in wrestling goes like this: AEW, WWE, New Japan Wrestling. I had one more. I can't believe I just mind blank right there. So New Japan Wrestling, I would probably put Impact at 4 or 5 because Ring of Honor is now owned by AEW, and Ring of Honor is doing great because they've repackaged themselves to be viewed in a specific area. So Ring of Honor is doing better numbers than it ever has been. But I just don't see Impact, I guess, wants to just make. I mean, I thought it was clickbait at first. Like, oh, we threw out a number to CM Punk. We just want to see if we take it. Honestly, CM Punk is just not the draw anymore. Tony Khan made the right decision about firing from AEW. I just don't want to, and in my opinion, I just don't want to see Impact Wrestling make another Hulk Hogan mistake. Because for a lot of black folks, we still haven't forgave Hulk Hogan because, you know why. Moving right along, guys. I want to cover this as well because Avatar: The Last Airbender, Netflix is taking a shot at it. And, of course, M. Night Shyamalan kind of put a bad taste in our mouth because the man had a budget, he had time, he had source material, Nickelodeon, and he gave us crap. Let's just be honest. That being said, guys, I want to talk about this for a second. We have some stills from Netflix, Netflix's Avatar: Last Airbender, and I'm going to be honest with you, night and freaking day. And what I mean by that is Aang. I mean, detail. There's nothing else I can say beyond that. Detail of Aang. Or even Katara. Detail. I cannot stress this enough. From the hairstyle, clothing, and a little bit of the water effect, as you can see up there. But again, detail. Even Sokka. Again, detail. Casting as well, because the casting, I mean, whoever was the person that was doing the casting for Netflix really did their homework. They understood the assignment. Let's just call it what it is. I even go to Prince Zuko. Again, detail. The detail of it all. And I just hope I mean, when you get detail like this, it's hard to believe that they got a story wrong. It's hard to believe that they got it wrong. Or, see another, again, the detail for Prince Zuko. Hopefully they tell his story right because the brother's got layers. That's all I'm saying. However, this one, Paul Sun-hyung as Uncle Iroh. Man, the moment he starts singing that one song, it's gonna be hard not to have watery eyes. That's all I'm saying. But even his detail looks great. And even Princess Azula, who looks like she's about to ask you something nicely before she murders you. Again, great detail and casting on this as well. And Daniel Day Kim as Fire Lord, who looks like he looks like he's checking the receipt because the DoorDash guy from Chipotle got it wrong. But still, detail on all this is freaking beautiful. And of course, Commander Zhao. Again, I want to talk about, guys, I know I've said this a lot, but here was the problem we always had with these live action adaptations. Now, granted, we just saw Netflix do One Piece, and Netflix did One Piece successfully. Keep in mind, I will gladly stand on my hill for this. Netflix's One Piece was probably one of the best adaptations for anime to a live action sequence. To literally give us that many episodes and that much content of the East Blue, get that alone from what they did with One Piece and now going to Last Airbender. I'm just saying it looks great. I have no issues. I just hope the story lives up to the actual set and casting designs because, again, if Uncle Iroh starts singing that one song, I don't care how. Look, if you're a fan, you know what song I'm talking about, you're going to be crying. Let's just call it what it is. But also, I did want to cover this as well because, again, we do have a little bit of gaming news about Xbox Game Pass with, again, another lineup coming out. I did want to stress a few games that were going to be coming out to Game Pass. Dead Space. And I say Dead Space because a lot of people are going to sit there and say, well, don't you mean the older Dead Space? No, I mean the Dead Space that's supposed to be the remake. Now, again, if you've never played Dead Space, trigger warning. It is survival horror. It is, as the name implies, it is in outer space. It's a different way of fighting. It's like Dark Soul. Well, no, yeah, I think we can call it that. It's a soul. It's a Souls light, similar game. Because if you ever played on hardcore and you didn't, and if you played on hardcore and didn't have a stress, and your stress level wasn't freaking sky high afterwards, you, my friend, you the truth. That's all I'm gonna say. I played Dead Space on hardcore. Dark Souls was easier. But the reason why I bring this up, because again, with the remake, guys, again, these are scenes from the remake. Now, what you're seeing right here, that's the remake. That's the remake. Updated graphics, more definition. It literally pops out compared to the original, which again, in its respect, these are Xbox. These are the original Xbox graphics. So again, I understand, because I tell people, I said, you gotta understand, Dead Space, when it first came out in 2008, and we are now in 2023, there's been a lot of improvements since then. Even now, the original scene, again, for 2023, this is the remake, sharper, defined, darker. It invites you versus the original. Again, we're not knocking it. When you've had 15 years to clean something up, it's going to look better. So that's just one of the games that are going to be. That's just one of the games that'll be on Game Pass this month. City Skylines 2 will be out. Gunfire Reborn, Kill with Fire, Persona 5 Royal, and Signalis will all be available on Xbox Game Pass sometime in the middle of this month. Well, actually, should, if not by tomorrow, because I know for a lot of y'all are probably playing Marvel Spider-Man 2 right now on PS5 because it's now available. Let me know in the comments what you think of it, because I'm jealous of y'all. I can't wait to play it myself. I mean, the first Marvel Spider-Man was great. Spider-Man Miles Morales was great. I am hoping to God, because I am trying to avoid spoilers. I'm trying to avoid TikTok. I am trying to avoid all social media, because let me stress this very heavily. I know people want to sit there, and I know people want to give their opinions, show scenes, show things about the newest video game out there. But guys, I beg of you, I plead of you, could you at least wait 48 hours? I mean, the game was only released at 6 p.m. Well, it would have been 6 p.m. Central Time, my time, because I'm in the South in the U.S. But I know beforehand it was released overseas before it got to here, just because of time zones. There were already walkthroughs and videos and scenes of the actual gameplay. Guys, I understand. You're trying to get likes, you're trying to get clicks, you're trying to get all this stuff. But let's treat this like the movies. Give it at least a good solid week before you decide to spoil stuff. Because that to me is just like, it's tacky. It really is. But again, enjoy it, because I certainly will when I get the chance, because again, with Insomniac Games and Marvel Spider-Man, it just looked like it didn't miss. And I just want to see how they did Venom. But again, I digress. Just don't be a dick and really put it out there, because it's available to you. That's all I'm saying. But a bit of movie news, because this one I definitely want to cover, just because if you're a fan of Kingsman, The Golden Circle, The Kingsman, Matthew Vaughn, who basically was the franchise director behind all of this, did let us know, or I should say he let it slip, that we are going to get a Kingsman 2. It's basically going to be titled The Traitor King. And it's going to be weird. And I say weird because I wonder how they're going to do this. Because the Kingsman 2, if you remember from the original Kingsman, the scene, the mid-credit scene from the first film, it showed Hitler. And that the Kingsman 2 movie will cover the rise of Hitler. So again, I understand in this day and age, especially what's going on right now, with the war in Israel, this might be, and I'm not saying it's not bad. Don't get me wrong. Kingsman and the Kingsman with Matthew Vaughn at the helm have never been afraid to really push the envelope. And let's be honest, if you watched Inglourious Bastards, and I say this because for a lot of us, my age group and maybe a few years back, we've seen Inglourious Bastards. I still watch Inglourious Bastards. Just because, number one, it's funny. Number two, Brad Pitt with a Tennessee accent. I did not have that on my bingo card. And number three, yes, killing Nazis. I mean, it's the same reason why a lot of us play Wolfenstein. We all do the same thing. Let's just be honest. It's for the fun of it. But again, I'm not against it. I'm looking forward to the Kingsman 2 because, again, that was a great movie. It's a great series. I really want to see. I'm really hoping for a third Kingsman movie. I'm hoping. I know Taron Egerton and Matthew Vaughn are really going to get together and do it. It's going to be interesting if they do. But again, I digress. But we do got to talk about the elephant in the room. An elephant that's literally about 69 billion, give or take. I am talking about the biggest purchase in video game history. Literally and figuratively, guys. Microsoft, as of this reporting, now owns Activision / Blizzard. I know for a lot of people, that's not going to really bother. Here's my thing. A lot of people got nervous because Microsoft in most recent years have really began purchasing IPs. I think I want to say literally 3 years ago, Bethesda was purchased by Microsoft. So was ID. So was a handful of other studios, all being put in the Microsoft umbrella. Nothing wrong with that, really, except Activision has the best thing going for them, Call of Duty. Now, for a lot of people, when they thought Xbox was going to own Call of Duty, PlayStation owners started to get a little bit hesitant because PlayStation owners, because at the time, Call of Duty was a PlayStation exclusive. Now we can say this, that part of the acquisition deal was that it will not be an Xbox exclusive. It'll still be available on PlayStation, Xbox, considering the fact that they did all this work in crossplay. Now, I've got nothing against this because not only with Call of Duty, Overwatch, World of Warcraft, Candy Crush Saga, Diablo, Guitar Hero, Spyro will all be joining Xbox. Now, the thing about this is, for a $69 billion deal, guys, if you're expecting any Activision Blizzard games to be on Game Pass, unfortunately, part of the deal is they will not be on Game Pass until sometime in 2024. So you've got about maybe 3 months or so before you see any of those games pop up on Xbox Game Pass, which, by the way, bang for bucks, guys. Xbox Game Pass, to me, is probably one of the better subscription services out there. Just because PlayStation had announced price hikes, which made me change my PlayStation. It made me change my PlayStation subscription. I used to have the premium. I went back to basic because I really can't justify $160 every year. And the game library really hasn't increased. At the same time, it's just price gouging is really what it is. When Game Pass is still charging me $19.99 and it's included. And there are some games that are available on day one on Xbox Game Pass, like Lies of P. If you haven't played Lies of P, highly recommend you should. Souls-like game, but definitely fun, definitely challenging. But that's where Xbox gets it right, and PlayStation kind of gets it wrong. But this is the reason why I keep saying I don't see a problem with Xbox's acquisitions, just because they've been smart acquisitions. Now, PlayStation was thinking, for PlayStation, Sony, I'm talking to you guys. If you really want to try to challenge it, I'm not saying do acquisitions, but maybe give us games that we've been expecting for a little while. That's all I'm saying. There's a couple of games out there that you guys have been just hanging around and, well, for the life of me, have decided that you don't really need to. And I'm just sitting there thinking to myself the entire time, I'm like, you would think, and I say this very heavily, you would think that Sony, because acquisitions are becoming few and far and in between, and nothing wrong about Sony. Sony has had a great year of game releases. But there are some games we are waiting for to have information on that could really turn the tide in our favor. I'm not talking about Final Fantasy. I'm not talking about any other games, but just games, and I'm going to probably bring this up on another podcast, that games that deserve a sequel that never happened. I'll give a prime example before I move on. Days Gone. Days Gone was a great IP that Sony had and left it open-ended to the point to where it's like, how is it that we don't have a sequel to Days Gone? Because technically the story isn't over. And I don't want to spoil for anybody that has never played it. But again, Days Gone is available on PlayStation Plus if you want to play it yourself. But I've always wondered why that game never got a sequel. Because it was great. It really was. But again, one of these days we're going to bring this up on another podcast about games that just simply that really should have gotten a sequel but never did. But speaking of PlayStation, guys, PlayStation isn't without news this week. They did announce what their PlayStation Slim would look like. I'm just going to play the video. So what you saw, guys, right there was the PlayStation Slim. Yeah. So let's get into this, shall we? So we knew there was slimmer versions of the PS5 coming. However, I did not expect this because the PS5 is 40% slimmer than its original version. It is, and like its predecessor, it is coming in two types. It's coming in digital, which again, digital, not having a optical drive. We'll be able to download games to it and just play off of that. However, in this case, you can actually purchase the additional optical drive that allows you to play disc games into the PS5. Now, of course, just to point this out, digital-wise, the digital edition, the PS5 digital edition will be somewhere around $450. Which again, people are wondering, like, wait a minute, why is the Slim? Is the Slim more than the original? Yes, $50 more than the original. Now, if you want the Slim PS5 with a disc drive, that's going to cost you upwards of $500. A lot of people right now are probably going to be like, wait a second. So if I want a Slim PS5, I'm paying more for it. But if I want the Slim PS5 with a disc drive, I'd pay $500. Yes. This does not compute. I know. It doesn't compute. Because, again, this is where I said Sony could have gotten. Sony is like, if you're going to make it smaller, you're going to make it portable, you would think price-wise it would be a little bit more feasible. It's not. And don't get me wrong, this is kind of, and I know this is not the news that a lot of people were hoping for when it comes to Slim PS5, especially after the fact that when the PS5 was launched, you had to deal with bots, you had to deal with skimmers, you had to deal with everybody getting PS5s and shipments as soon as they came in, went right out the window. The reason why I said the Slim PS5 is good news is because, well, let's be honest. If you're like me, you're trying to get the best deal wherever you can find it. And all I can say is check out local pawn stores, because once this PS5 hits, there's going to be original fat PS5s in those areas to where you'll be able to purchase them for much less. So if you've been waiting, now's your time to shine. But again, as a person that's waiting to get a PS5, I understand it. I do not understand the price point because, again, for it to be slimmer, it should not cost more. It should actually cost less. Case in point, the Microsoft Xbox Series S costs less than the Microsoft Series Xbox One X. I mean, I'm just saying, if you're paying for S, you're paying less for X, but you're paying more for X because, again, they differ. But in Sony's reverse land world, if it's slimmer, it costs more. And if you want the disk drive, you're really going to be paying. I know, it makes no sense. Not at all. But we digress. Moving on, guys. I know I talked about Matthew Vaughn just a little bit ago about the Kingsman. But did you know that he actually pitched a Superman movie? Yeah, he actually pitched a Superman movie. What he actually said, because it was between him and Mark Miller. If you know who Mark Miller is, again, Jupiter's Legacy, again, on Netflix. Great show if you haven't seen it. But he says that this was the idea that they had pitched, that our big idea was a twist that Krypton doesn't blow up. It does eventually. Superman's dad was right. He just got his timing wrong. So when Superman's grown up, suddenly there's a mass exodus, then all hell breaks loose, and that was our idea. So let's think about this for a second. Don't get me wrong about Matthew Vaughn. Great director, great writer. But his idea, so Krypton doesn't blow up yet. Superman grows up on Krypton. Superman is a grown man by the time Krypton has its eventual demise. And then I guess the story is them all leaving Krypton. You know, I'm not against it, except there was a sci-fi show called Krypton that kind of did this. I don't know. And don't get me wrong, I am a Superman fan. I mean, you can't see my shirt right now because the camera's up, but I am a Superman fan. I'm a DC fan. DC fan first, Marvel fan second. I love Superman. I love the different stories and how they try to tell Superman. I love Red Sun. I love the Age of Superman. I can keep going down the line. A lot of those were great stories. I'm just not sure about this one. The fact that this was their pitch, that for the simple fact of the matter, guys, that, oh, well, Superman is grown up. So Superman's a grown man by the time Krypton has this exodus. I just can't help. Where's the story? He even goes on to say Lex Luthor was the main villain until Krypton explodes, and then it goes all downhill from there. Even though he did name drop Zod, Brainiac, and Lex Luthor. But you're doing it, but to his defense, he's saying this as part of a trilogy series. They always, because that's a smart thing. You always want to pan out a superhero movie in threes in case it's a great story. But I just don't get the whole, Superman staying on Krypton, growing up, and then leaving his parents or just being pulled from him. I'm not saying it doesn't make sense. Not saying it doesn't make sense. Not saying that, it's not workable, but it's questionable. Like, where's the? I see the ingredients, but I'm not getting enough seasoning at what I'm getting at. Because if you're gonna tell a Superman story while he's on Krypton, then that at that point is just Kal-El. It's just Kal-El at that point. And at the same time, it's like, what is he there for? I mean, is he a man? Is he a Kryptonian that's just living a Kryptonian life until it's taken away from him? It doesn't really have the Superman-esque behind it in a trilogy series, because all you're basically doing is adding filler where it doesn't need to be filled. That's what I get from that. But you guys let me know. Like I said before, the whole idea of Superman, being grown up and on Krypton, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I could be wrong about this. I don't see it for a trilogy standpoint. That you still, again, the whole thing about telling Krypton, and this is just me, my opinion. If you try to treat Krypton the same way we try to give Joker his identity, because a lot of people are like, well, who's the Joker? The identity of the Joker has always been a mystery. There was one story about Joker being Joe Cool, and Joe Cool was the one that killed Batman's parents. The thing about the Joker is, once you take the mystery out of something, it loses that sparkle. Even as a Batman fan, I never wanted to know who Joker really was. Joker in himself was his persona. I did not want to know. I did not want to know the person who had led up to becoming the Joker, because at that point, it's like knowing how a magician does his tricks. I don't want to know. You can keep showing me the same card trick for 30 plus years. I never want to know the secret, but I am wowed every time you do it. That's just me, but I could be wrong. Because again, it's just like Krypton. We don't need to know about Krypton. We know that Krypton exploded and that some Kryptonians got evicted. That's all we need to know, because the true essence of the Superman story is really on Earth, not up there. But like I said, you guys let me know in the comments what you think. I just think that, well, I don't know if it's worth considering. That's why they call it a pitch. But speaking of pitches, again, with Netflix, guys, Netflix is going to be doing a live action adaptation of Yu Yu Hakusho, Spirit Detective. Now, we don't have any news. we just have this. We have one screenshot. That is it. And of course, I guess it's gonna be and forgive me if I destroy your name. Takumi Kimura as Yusuke Urameshi. That's all we're getting. One screenshot. Now, again, Yu Yu Hakusho, if you do not know what that anime is, please go to Crunchyroll or to Hulu or to Funimation, wherever you get your anime from, because Yu Yu Hakusho is honestly one of the greatest. Arguably, let's say arguably, because there's always going to be that one. Let's just be honest. There's always going to be that one person that does not like Yu Yu Hakusho, and that's fine. That is completely fine. But arguably one of the greatest animes out there, especially with Yu Yu Hakusho in the Dark Tournament. Again, loved it. The fact that Netflix again is trying their hand at adaptations, I'm not against it. I'm curious to see how they're going to go about it, but all we get is that one screenshot. That's it. More news will come. Toward the end of the year, but I'm looking forward to it. But it almost makes me want to watch Yu Yu Hakusho all over again. It really does. But anyway, moving right along, guys, I did want to cover our review of Loki. I know I haven't covered Gen V. Still need to catch up on that because Gen V, again, much like Invincible, much like The Boys, Gen V is not for kids because it is. Gen V, how can I put this? If you really want a quick adaptation, Gen V is like Dawson's Creek with superpowers. That's all you need to know right there. But also not for kids. But when we come back on our next podcast, I'll actually have a better review of Gen V. But what I did want to talk about was the elephant in the room. I wanted to talk about Loki. And I wanted to talk about this most recent episode. Now, let me stress this very heavily. I am going to talk about the most recent episode. If you have not seen Loki, if you're still wanting to watch the current episode that's out there, it comes out every Thursday. If you don't want to know anything that I'm about to talk about in this episode, now is a good time to mute me or come back in a few minutes. You've been warned. With that being said, guys, we do got to talk about it because this episode 1893, we finally got to see Kang's variant. Enter Victor Timely. Really quickly, we find out that Renslayer and Miss Minutes had traveled to where Victor Timely was because apparently they were given a plan from He Who Remains to basically give a TNA guide to his variant to basically keep the sacred timeline whole. From there, we find out about Sylvie, which again, Sylvie is with Mobius and with Loki back at the TVA, who believes that all variants of He Who Remains have to be eliminated. Have to be. She is on, ever since she eliminated He Who Remains, she truly believes that all of his variants are evil and are given a chance will do the exact same thing and create the TVA. But once Loki and Mobius did actually get to the actual time area where Victor Timely was, that again, it was interesting that Jonathan Majors, which by the way, I think we can consider him safe now. I think we can consider Jonathan Majors safe. Reason being because, number one, he's still Kang. I mean, well, he's Victor Timely in this episode, but he's still Kang. Jonathan Majors does a really, really good performance of Victor Timely. From his speech, because of the stuttering on purpose, the whole idea of being lost, and like you keep on referring me as a man that I do not know. I'm not this conqueror. I am not this god of destruction you think I am. I love Major's performance in this, which makes me very excited for him moving forward in the Kang Dynasty and everything and other movies and shows, because I still think we are going to see more of his variants, not just in Loki, but in other shows as well. The only gripe I have about this is that Timely's origin slightly altered, but I'm not a stickler for that. I'm not a stickler for it has to be comic book accurate because let's be honest, you won't be able to pull off everything in a comic and in a live action show. There are some things you are going to have to change. And again, I love what they did with Victor Timely. However, we do got to talk about Miss Minutes for a second. Miss Minutes is the reason why I believe all AIs really should not be given free reign, because Miss Minutes was literally declaring her love for really He Who Remains, but she saw it in Victor Timely, and Victor Timely was like, you got the wrong guy, because no. So it was really, as Hellspawn Cosplay would say, it was giving Girl 6 vibes. If you've seen Girl 6, you know what I'm getting at. But Renslayer was a little ticked off because Timely did kind of drop her at the behest of Miss Minutes, only to come back and threaten to really wipe out from all existence. Mobius and Loki and Sylvie do intervene. Sylvie had a choice to make. That, again, I love the fact that going back to, again, Major's performance, saying I'm not the monster you think I am. I'm not him. I deserve a chance. And she turns around and lets him go. Back with Loki and Mobius, back to the TVA, where Obi basically, and again, at the beginning of the episode, where Obi says the only way the doors can be unlocked is that you have to have the DNA of He Who Remains, which, as we all know, Sylvie 86'd him back in season 1, so his variant will have to do. I do love the fact that Sylvie said, leave Renslayer with me. And Renslayer, and she goes, and she literally reads Renslayer to a T and goes, all you want is power. That's all you want. And Renslayer says, yes, I want the seat of power. I want the seat of power at the edge of time. Of course, what does she get? Her wish. She literally gets Spartan kicked through a time door at the edge of time, where He Who Remains' body at this point is gathering dust. So her and Miss Minutes are at the edge of time with He Who Remains' body. And Miss Minutes goes, Miss Minutes kind of sounds like a vengeful sworn woman, where she sat there and said, well, he forgot that I know all his secrets. Turns to Renslayer and says, oh yeah, there's one I know about you. You're going to be pissed when I tell you. Again, it was a great episode. It was really a great episode. It just sets up for what's going to happen the next one. Will Victor Timely be able to repair the time loom at the TVA? What's the secret that Miss Minutes is going to tell Renslayer? It's just, and again, where's Sylvie? Sylvie again, Spartan kicked somebody else and disappeared off. Did she go back to that McDonald's? Which, again, I still think the person at that McDonald's is Mobius. That's me. I'm not going to lie to you. I think the person that is sitting at that McDonald's, the manager that she talks to in the previous episode, I think, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that is Mobius, or at least a variant of Agent Mobius. But again, I digress. Let me know what you guys think in the comments of what you thought of Loki. Again, it's still a great series. But let's be honest, it's all we got going for us right now, because again, until this actor strikes get settled, guys, we are pretty much enjoying it until the well runs dry. But hey, again, if they can pay the writers, they can pay the actors. Now, as far as comic book pools, guys, we don't really have anything tonight. We will definitely have a new comic pool list next week on our podcast. But I did want to point out 2 comics that are coming out that really I'm going to pay much attention to. I want to start with this one because, again, I am a Star Trek fan. I just now gotten back to Star Trek and Star Trek Defiant, which are basically following the Red Path. If you have not read that series, you really should. It was very well done. They are coming out now with something called Star Trek Sons of Star Trek series, which will eventually debut early next year, where it's basically following the adventures of Jake Sisko and Alexander Rosenko, or basically Son of War, for all those that don't know. Will basically be following what happens after the battle with the Red Path. They will eventually be joined up with Q's son, right there, as you can see there. Now, there is a question, guys, they keep bringing up here, that Q Jr. and Nog will both be joining Alexander and Jake Sisko, but there was a question I wanted to ask this entire time, because, again, it's Sons of Star Trek. Will we see Jean-Luc Picard's son? Now, for all those that watch Star Trek Picard, spoiler alert, he does have a son. Now, because he has a son, who, again, joined Starfleet, also gotten Q's attention. Does set up to where we may see another Star Trek series. I'm not against it. I think Star Trek Picard was a lovely send-off for the next generation. It definitely brought tears to my eyes watching the series. But in IDW, who is actually producing the comic, it makes me wonder, will we see Jean-Luc's son there? But again, I think it's great. Looking forward to reading that once it comes out. Now, the other one I wanted to cover, guys, because this one is called New Batman. Basically, it's the new Batman Gargoyle of Gotham trailer. Now, Batman Gargoyle of Gotham. If you have not read this, I'm going to be honest. It's interesting. It is interesting because what happens in Batman Gargoyle of Gotham, basically, Batman goes full Batman. What I mean by that is, he is and also it's not Zor-En Ra for all those other things. Zor-En Ra is basically what happens when Batman's failsafe kicks in. But what Batman does, he decides to kill off the Bruce Wayne identity and just go full on Batman. During the time at this point, a serial killer is on the loose, not Vicar Zsasz, but they seem to all be connected as far as the victims of the serial killer, not just to each other, but to Batman as well. So, again, I've read a little bit of this because this came out. The first issue came out on Batman Day, which was September 16th. Ironically enough, was when I got married. I did not read it on my wedding day. I read it a week after my wedding day. I read it a week after my wedding day. But the second issue for that is going to come out. Again, Batman Gargoyle of Gotham is pretty great. If you haven't read it, please take the time to do so. Trust me, you will not be disappointed. And like I said, guys, again, we'll have our comic pools because we'll actually have a guest with me and Joe next week on Get Bit, and we'll basically cover our pools from there. Now, as always, guys, we do want to show support to those that give us support, and we want to shout out to Rick's Comic City. If you don't know what that is, it is Nashville's #1 place for comic books, anime, multimedia, toys, and things of that nature. They have two stores located in Nashville, Tennessee, and Clarksville, Tennessee. And of course, in Fort Campbell, Kentucky, they do have Locker Nerd. Again, they have been Nashville's #1 place for comic stores for almost, I believe, 5 years in a row, which is very impressive. But you can only go there. You can only go there to the stores. You actually go there. You can actually go to their website at Rick's Comic City that you see right there, and you'll be able to basically buy comics, do pull orders, things of that nature. So if you can't go there, you can definitely do it online, but definitely let them know that us at GetBit sent you. It does not get you any discounts, but it lets you know, but we want to show them love because they show us love. So definitely check them out, Rick's Comic City. Also, again, if you are not in the Nashville, Middle Tennessee area, please support your local comic book stores. Support your local libraries. They are the last places, guys, to where you will be able to get. And I say last because these places are disappearing, really and truly. These are the last places to where you can get comics, where you can get mangas, you can get anime, you can get videos, DVDs, toys, graded comics. Graded comics are coming a thing now. Funko Pops, the whole shebang. That's the reason why I keep saying all the time, especially in libraries, read banned books. I cannot stress that enough. Read the books that they don't want you to read because there's something in there they don't want you to know, but you should know because it makes you better as a human being. So again, support your local comic stores, support your local libraries. Just because, guys, these places are really becoming scarce. I cannot stress that enough as a guy that does enjoy both. But as we wrap up this podcast, guys, I do want to do some shameless plugs. I do want to first shout out Blurred Station. What is Blurred Station, you may ask? BlurredStation.com is basically an area. It's like Netflix, except, they're not going to just, bait and switch you, increase your prices, make you do password sharing for no reason. BlurredStation.com is a place to where you will be able to find content such as Issue 1, hosted by Hellspawn Cosplay, as far as getting comic book creators their first comic book posted. Undead Horizon, which is a zombie apocalypse show. That's going to be all available on BlurredStation.com. Now, with that being said, guys, BlurredStation.com is only $10. Yes, $10. I cannot stress that enough. $10. And with that being said, guys, $10. And again, if you do join, the one thing I do ask is that when you do go Blurred Station, please choose the Blurred's Eye Affinity membership. Because why? Your boy is part of Blurred's Eye View. Help brother out. It's still $10.99 regardless. $10.99. Do you understand that you can pay for this service and still turn around and get your favorite meal from McDonald's or Wendy's or Subway? Because let's be honest, money's tight. These subscription areas like Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Apple TV, they're all adjusting their content, but on Blurred Station, the content doesn't disappear. So please, oh please, definitely check it out. Support them. Let people know about this. This is going movement. And I didn't tell you the best part. The best part is after paying $10.99 for 36 months, you own a piece of Blurred Station. You can't say that about Netflix. You can't say that about Hulu. You cannot say that about anybody but Blurred Station, because why? You want to own something that's only growing in numbers. So definitely get in while you can. While you're there, like I said before, definitely select the join now options like Blurred's Eye View Affinity membership. And also, also ask you for a name. Put my name, Black Spartan or William Buchanan, either one. Put that there and let them know I sent you. Because again, guys, I cannot stress this enough about having something that is for us and by us to enjoy. Because again, the move is happening. Jump on it, simply put. Also, shout out to my boy Vaughn at Big VZA Dot. You can definitely find him Big VZA Dot on all social media, where he does beats for shows, for songs, things of that nature. So if you do need a beat or want him to create one for you, definitely check him out, Big VZA Dot, on all social media. As for myself, guys, you can find me BlackFox447 on all socials. I usually do reviews on everything that I read, that I watch, that I play, and gym stuff, because I try to do a couple push-ups, try to keep myself in shape. The link at the bottom, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger for you guys to see. If you copy and paste that link into your browser, it'll take you to our link tree. That's YouTube and Facebook groups for all of our podcasts. How the Frack Got Here, Get Bit, Me Off One's podcast. Like, share, subscribe. Let people know what you thought about all this. Let me know what you thought about everything we discussed tonight. Only thing I ask in the combos, guys, keep it clean. We are not out to bash anybody. We are not out to, say who's better. We all have fandoms. We just want to be able to discuss them in a polite, civilized manner. That's all I ask. Also, guys, again, if you know somebody that's doing something, that's pushing something, promoting something, opening a new business, just don't like and move on. Like and share. Word of mouth is the greatest advertising tool that we have among us. And again, if you know somebody that's into blurry stuff or nerdy stuff, let them know about Blurred Station. Let them know about Get Bit. Let them know about Blurred's Eye View and various other shows. Roomful of Blurs, Mayhem Media, BlurdyCon. I cannot stress this enough. There are so many out there. And that, again, we are just simply all just trying to get more content, trying to get the people what they want. But we can't do this without you. So that's the only reason I ask to like, share, comment, let people know. That's all I ask. That being said, guys, again, it is con season. I have 3 simple rules for con seasons. Number 1, respect the cosplayer at all times. That goes beyond saying, because they get a guy like me to throw you out. And I mean, I don't like throwing people out of cons. I think cons are for everybody, but if you act a nut, you gonna get thrown. And I am working on my tosses because, bro, trying to get distance. Number 2, wash your ass. As long as there is water, soap, deodorant, there should be no reason why your ass should be funky in a con. These cons can be very big, and they can also be very packed. And again, hygiene is key. Wash your ass, brush your teeth. A little bit of mouthwash goes a long way. That's all I'm saying. Number 3, guys, is the same rule that I have for myself and others, because we've had so much negativity in the world. Simply put, be kind, be nice, don't be a dick, and we'll all be cool. So, as I said, guys, we'll definitely be back here, same Get Bit time, same Get Bit channel. As I end this, guys, I cannot stress this enough. We all have fandoms. We all love them. The thing about fandoms is fandoms are meant to be discussed. They're meant to be shared. They're meant to be loved. And above all else, toxicity is not a part of it. So again, if you have a fandom, share it. If you don't know nobody that knows about it, let them know about it. At the same time, you may make a friend in the process. Fandoms are for everyone, not for toxicity. Take care of yourself, guys. Take care of yourself, guys, and everybody else, because apparently I've messed up the ending. Take care of yourselves and each other, guys. Have a great weekend. Stay safe, because again, Mother Nature's changing up. Have a good night, guys. Peace.